Listen up, Chicago fans, because what's going down at Hallis Hall right now could flip the future of this team on its head. While you're sitting there thinking the season's over, the front office is making moves that'll decide whether we become the monsters of the Midway again or stay the laughingstock of the NFC North. First, there's a shake-up in the war room that's got the whole league buzzing. A coordinator who just lit it up here and now has teams begging for his services. Second, we've got a wild situation with one of our star receivers, and I'm telling you, this could either free up millions in cap space or turn into a massive screw-up. And third, after losing a key piece of our offensive staff, Ben Johnson's got a huge decision to make, one that might bring back a familiar face. Stick around till the end, because this only gets crazier. And if you think you've seen it all with this team, you're dead wrong. Smash that like button and subscribe right now, because this Bears community needs to stay tight more than ever. First story, Declan Doyle. All right, I'm going to hit you with something that stings, but we all should have seen it coming. Declan Doyle, our offensive coordinator, the kid who was just 29 and helped flip our offense this season, just took the OC job with the Baltimore Ravens. And let me ask you, can you blame him? I don't think so, and here's why. This dude was only in Chicago for 1 year, but let me tell you what he pulled off. He worked side by side with Ben Johnson, brought his offensive vision to life in a way few coordinators in this league can, and helped Caleb Williams put together one of the best rookie QB seasons in franchise history. We're talking 3,942 passing yards, a franchise record, 27 touchdowns, and just 7 picks. That kind of production doesn't just happen. And here's what people don't get. Doyle wasn't just an OC on paper. He was the guy burning the midnight oil at Hallis Hall, grinding film till 3 in the morning. He knew every defensive tendency of every team we faced. He was the bridge between Ben Johnson's genius and what happened on Sundays. Remember how Caleb Williams took a huge leap after week 6? That wasn't luck. That was Doyle tweaking the game plan, simplifying reads, putting Caleb in spots to succeed. That was Doyle working with the receivers to tighten up their routes. That was Doyle coordinating with the O-line to buy Caleb more time in the pocket. But here's what's got me thinking. Doyle had offers from the Eagles, one of the most stable teams of the last decade, and turned them down. Why? Because he was actually considering staying in Chicago. So what changed? I think it was the chance to call plays. Look, in Chicago, Doyle was never going to call plays. That's Ben Johnson's show, and I get it. Johnson's one of the best offensive minds in the NFL, but Doyle's young, he's hungry, and he wants to grow. And when the Ravens came calling with Lamar Jackson, a 2-time MVP, and said, "You're calling plays for one of the best QBs on the planet," how the hell do you say no to that? And let's be real, Doyle's 29, the same age as Lamar Jackson. And now, he's the youngest play-calling OC in the NFL. That's a once-in-a-lifetime shot. But from Chicago's side, this hurts. It hurts bad. You know what's wild? Doyle and Lamar are the same age, and both are 3 years younger than Derrick Henry, the Ravens' starting running back. Let that sink in. That tells you everything you need to know about how special Doyle is. Now, I know what you're thinking. Is our offense going to fall apart? And I'll tell you this. No. As long as Ben Johnson's in Chicago, we're good. He's the one calling plays, designing schemes, installing game plans. He's the architect. Doyle was a key piece, no doubt, but Johnson's the mastermind. But here's what worries me. What we're losing with Doyle doesn't show up in the stat sheet. We're losing a film junkie, a guy who could predict what defenses were going to do before they did it. A guy who had a real connection with Caleb Williams. Remember that Week 12 game against the Vikings? Caleb had his best game of the year, 342 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 picks. You know who built that game plan? Doyle. He spotted that Minnesota's secondary was weak against corner routes and exploited it all night. Or the game at Lambeau against the Packers. Everyone thought we'd get smoked by 20. But Doyle crafted a plan that neutralized Green Bay's pass rush, and Caleb had all day to throw. We won that game 24-17 because Doyle out-schemed their defensive staff. And here's what really bugs me. The Ravens aren't just getting a talented OC. They're getting someone who knows all the secrets of Ben Johnson's offense. Someone who spent a full year learning from one of the best minds in the game. That's priceless. But here's the upside. The chance to work with Ben Johnson is going to attract top-tier candidates. People are going to want this job. The question is, who's it going to be? And let me ask you this. Do you think Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson already have someone in mind? I do. This front office doesn't move without a plan, and I guarantee they're already making calls. The question is, do they go young and hungry like Doyle, or do they bring in someone with more experience? What's interesting is this. Doyle went to the Ravens, a team that's been a powerhouse in the AFC for years. 14 playoff appearances in the last 16 seasons. A team that knows how to win. That tells you the work Doyle did in Chicago was impressive enough for one of the most respected franchises in the league to say, we want that guy. And that, folks, is a sign that what Ben Johnson is building here is legit. But let's not kid ourselves. Losing Doyle after just 1 year is a gut punch. It's like finding a great new restaurant in your neighborhood and then it shuts down the next year. It sucks, but life goes on, and Chicago's got to move forward. And here's what gives me hope. Ben Johnson's been here before. In Detroit, he lost coordinators and assistants all the time because other teams kept poaching his talent. And every time, he found someone better. Every time, the offense got stronger. So why should it be any different in Chicago? I'll say this. Losing Doyle is a test for this organization. Can they replace what he brought? Can they find someone with that same work ethic, that same attention to detail? Because if they can't, we're in trouble. But if they can, if they bring in the right person, this could be a blessing in disguise. And you know what else? This is a test for Caleb Williams too. Last year he had the luxury of working with two of the brightest offensive minds in the league, Johnson and Doyle. Now he's going to have to adjust to someone new, and I think he can do it. But it'll be interesting to see how he handles that transition. Because here's the truth. Great quarterbacks don't need the same OC their whole career. Tom Brady had multiple OCs in New England and Tampa. Peyton Manning had different ones in Indy and Denver. Patrick Mahomes has had different voices in his ear. The greats adapt. And I believe Caleb Williams is great. I think he's got what it takes to be the franchise QB this city's been waiting for since Sid Luckman. But now he's got to prove it. Now he's got to show he can thrive without Doyle. Second story, DJ Moore. If that news caught you off guard, wait till you hear this. Let's talk about something that's got the whole city split down the middle. DJ Moore. And I'm going to say something you might not want to hear, but you need to. There's a very real chance DJ Moore won't be wearing a Bears jersey next season. And before you start yelling at me, let me explain why. Christopher Klein from Fansided just dropped an article suggesting the Bears should trade DJ Moore to the Tennessee Titans. And look, I know some of you are thinking, man, you're out of your mind. Moore's one of our best receivers. And you're right. But hear me out on the numbers. We're $17.6 million over the salary cap for next season. Let me say that again. $17.6 million. That means Ryan Poles has to pull off some serious cap gymnastics to sign our draft class, bring in free agents, and keep our core guys. And Moore, with his contract, is one of the priciest pieces in that puzzle. And here's what people don't get about the cap situation. It's not just that we're over the limit. It's that we need room to make moves. We need space to sign our rookies. We need space to bring in free agents who can help us win now. And Moore's contract is eating up a big chunk of that space. So let me ask you this. Does it make sense to keep Moore when Rome Odunze has clearly emerged as Caleb Williams' #1 target? Because that's what happened this season. Odunze became Caleb's go-to guy. And while Moore had some big moments, he also had some head scratchers. Remember that route in the NFC divisional round where Moore basically gave up on the play and it turned into a pick? I remember, and I guarantee Ryan Poles remembers too. Those are the moments that make you question whether a guy's really got that championship heart. And look, I'm not saying Moore isn't talented. The guy's a beast when he's locked in. Just 2 years ago, he had a career season with 1,364 receiving yards. He's 28, still got juice, and when he's motivated, he's one of the most dangerous receivers in the league. But here's the issue. Moore's got a mixed rep around the league. Some scouts love him. Others question his consistency. Some coaches say he's one of the most gifted receivers they've ever worked with. Others say he checks out mentally at times. So what did we see this season? We saw flashes of brilliance, plays where Moore looked absolutely unguardable. But we also saw moments of frustration, times where he seemed out of sync with the game. That Week 15 game against the Lions is a perfect example. First half, Moore had 5 catches for 87 yards and a touchdown. Looked like he was on his way to a career night. But in the second half, 1 catch for 11 yards. What happened? Did Detroit adjust? Did Moore stop pushing? I don't know, but it's concerning. And here's what's really got me thinking. Rome Odunze had 713 receiving yards as a rookie. That's impressive. But what's even more impressive is how his chemistry with Caleb Williams grew as the season went on. Over the last 8 weeks, Odunze averaged 65 yards per game. That projects to over 1,000 yards in a full season. And then there's Colston Loveland, our rookie tight end. The dude led the team in receptions with 58 and had 713 yards as a tight end. As a rookie, that's insane, and it shows we've got weapons in this offense beyond Moore. So why the Titans? Well, Tennessee just drafted Cam Ward, a quarterback with all the tools, but who needs weapons? And Moore could be exactly what they're looking for. Plus, the Titans have cap space to burn, something we definitely don't have. And here's the part that really makes you think. When the Bears got more from the Panthers, they gave up the #1 overall pick. The #1 pick. Obviously, we're not getting anything close to that in a trade now, but we could still get decent draft capital. I'll say this, if the Bears can get a second-round pick, maybe even a third, for Moore, they've got to seriously consider it, because that cap space could be used to sign a top-tier offensive tackle or extend one of our young defensive studs. And let's talk about that for a second. Our offensive line needs help. Bad. Caleb Williams got sacked 38 times this season. That's way too much for a rookie QB. If we can use Moore's money to bring in a legit offensive tackle in free agency, that could change everything. Or we could use that money to extend Montez Sweat. Or bring in a coverage linebacker to help our pass defense. Or sign a top-tier safety if Jaquan Brisker walks. The options are endless if we've got the cap flexibility. But here's the catch. Moore's not just a player. He's a presence in that locker room. He's a vet who's been through it all, and that matters, especially for a young team like ours. And you know what else? Moore's still got 2 years left on his deal. That means if we trade him, we're basically admitting the Panthers trade was a bust. And I don't know if Ryan Poles is ready to admit that. Because let's be real, we gave up the #1 overall pick for Moore. The most valuable pick in the draft. And if we flip him after just 2 years for a second or third rounder, that's a massive drop in value. But I've got to be honest, sometimes you've got to cut your losses. Sometimes you've got to admit a move didn't work out and move on. And if Ryan Poles thinks trading Moore is what's best for this team's future, then he's got to pull the trigger. But look at the facts. Rome Odunze is the future. Colston Loveland just had a monster rookie year. We've got weapons. The question is, do we need Moore badly enough to justify his salary when we're this tight against the cap? Let me ask you this. Would you rather have DJ Moore, or would you rather have the cap space to bring in 2 or 3 impact free agents? Because that's the decision Ryan Poles has to make. And here's my honest take. If they can get solid value for Moore, they should do it. Not because Moore isn't good, but because this team needs cap flexibility more than it needs a high-priced WR2. But I get the other side too. Moore's one of the few proven weapons we've got. He can win one-on-ones. He can make explosive plays. He can flip a game with 1 catch. And guys like that don't grow on trees. And here's what worries me. If we trade him, what if Odunze gets hurt? What if Loveland hits that dreaded sophomore slump? Then we're in trouble without Moore as a safety net. The reality is this. Ryan Poles has some brutal decisions to make. And the DJ Moore decision might be the toughest of them all. Because no matter what he does, some fans are going to be pissed. If he keeps Moore and we can't make moves in free agency, fans will be furious. If he trades Moore and Odunze doesn't step up, fans will be furious. It's a no-win situation. But here's what I know. Ryan Poles has earned my trust with the moves he's made so far. He drafted Caleb Williams. He hired Ben Johnson. He's built a solid defense. So if he thinks trading more is the right call, I'm rolling with him. Third story, Jaquan Brisker and Dylan Thieneman. But none of that compares to what's coming next. Now we're getting into the news that's probably going to break some hearts in Chicago. Jaquan Brisker, one of the fan favourites, is likely not coming back next year. And yeah, I know that stings. But let me break down why. Brisker's about to hit free agency for the first time in his career after a solid season where he played all 17 games, snagged 1 interception, broke up 8 passes, and racked up 93 tackles. The guy's a baller, no doubt. But according to SpotTrack, his market value is 3 years, $33.3 million. That's $11.1 million per year. And here's the problem. Remember how I said we're $17.6 million over the cap? So how the hell are we supposed to pay $11 million a year to a safety when we can't even afford the guys already under contract? The answer is we can't, which means Brisker's probably going to sign with another team that's got the cap space to pay him what he's worth. And I don't blame him. If I were Brisker, I'd chase the bag too. And look, Brisker's been everything you want in a safety. Since getting drafted in the second round back in 2022, he's been consistent and reliable. He's played in 47 of 51 possible games over 3 seasons. That's durability. That's dependability. And it's not just that he plays, he produces. In 3 years, he's got 5 picks, 25 pass breakups, and 237 tackles. Those are solid numbers for a safety. And in a defense that values versatility, Brisker's shown he can do it all. Play in the box, drop deep, blitz, cover, you name it. Remember that Week 11 game against the Packers? Brisker had 11 tackles, a pass breakup, and forced a fumble. He was everywhere. That was the kind of performance that makes you say, this dude's different. Or that Week 15 game against the Vikings. Brisker came up with a clutch fourth quarter interception that sealed the win. Those are the moments that define a player. That's why fans fell in love with him. And that's exactly what happened. Chicago fans love Brisker. They see him as one of us. A guy who plays with fire, with heart, with that monsters of the Midway spirit. But here's the good news. The Athletic is predicting the Bears will use their second-round pick to draft Dylan Thieneman, a safety out of Oregon. And let me tell you, this kid is special. According to Lance Zierlein from NFL.com, Thieneman is a 3-year starter with NFL-level size, speed, and alignment versatility. He's basically an extension of the defensive coordinator on the field, adjusting the secondary pre-snap, reading formations, and making calls. He's instinctive, rangy, and can drop into nickel or robber roles when needed. And what I love about Thieneman is this. He's not the biggest hitter near the line, but he throws himself into the action with relentless pursuit. That's exactly the kind of motor we need in Chicago. Oh, let's dig deeper. At Oregon, he was a game changer. In his final season, he had 70 tackles, 5 interceptions, and 12 pass breakups. Those are all American numbers. That's the kind of production that gets you drafted in the first or second round. And what's even more impressive is his versatility. At Oregon, he played deep safety, lined up in the box, and even slid into nickel corner in certain packages. That kind of flexibility is gold in today's NFL. Now let me ask you this. Would you rather pay $11 million a year for Brisker, a proven guy who's going to be 27 next season, or draft Thieneman, a 22-year-old on a rookie deal that gives us cap flexibility? I'll tell you straight, from a roster-building standpoint, the answer's obvious. You go with the rookie, not because Brisker isn't good, but because the money you save can be used where we need it more. And let's talk about that. If we draft Thieneman in the second round, his rookie deal will probably be around $2 to $3 million a year for 4 years. That's $8 to $9 million less per year than Brisker. That's money we can use to sign an offensive tackle, extend Montez Sweat, or bring in a coverage linebacker. But I get the emotional side too. Brisker's a bear. He's bled navy and orange. He's given everything to this team. And watching him walk out the door is gonna hurt. And here's what's got me nervous. What if Thieneman doesn't pan out? What if he's a bust? Then we let go of a proven safety for a gamble. And that could wreck our defense. Because let's be real, Drafting isn't an exact science. For every Ed Reed or Troy Polamalu, there are 10 second-round safeties who never make it. And if Thieneman ends up being one of those, Ryan Poles is going to have a lot to answer for. But this is the reality of today's NFL. You can't keep everybody. You can't pay everybody. You've got to make tough calls based on value and cap flexibility. And as painful as it is, letting Brisker walk might be the right move. So let me ask you, do you trust Ryan Poles to make the right pick in the draft? Because if we go with Thieneman, we're basically betting the house that Poles nails this selection. And here's my honest take. I think Thieneman's going to be good. Maybe not Brisker level right away, but he's got the potential to be even better. And with a rookie contract, he gives us the flexibility we desperately need. And look at Poles' draft track record. He drafted Caleb Williams. He drafted Rome Odunze. He drafted Colston Loveland. He drafted Tyreek Stevenson. The guy knows how to scout talent. So if he believes Thieneman is the guy, I'm trusting him. But I also know this could blow up in our face. If Thieneman flops and Brisker becomes an all-pro somewhere else, Poles is going to catch heat. And here's what really bugs me. You know who else is hitting free agency this year? Jesse Bates from the Falcons. Xavier McKinney from the Packers. Justin Simmons is out there. There are elite safeties available. And if one of those teams signs Brisker and he balls out, we're going to look like fools. The truth is, the cap situation is forcing us to make moves we don't want to make. And Brisker's just the first of many cuts we're probably going to see this offseason. Because here's what people don't get. It's not just Brisker. Cody Whitehair's probably getting cut. Robert Quinn might be gone. A bunch of vets are going to have to go so we can get under the cap. And that sucks. It sucks to see guys who've given everything to this team have to leave because we can't afford them. But that's the NFL. That's the cap era. But here's what gives me hope. Ryan Poles has handled tough situations before. He's made hard calls before. And most of those calls have worked out. So I'm trusting that he knows what he's doing. So let's recap. We lost Declan Doyle to the Ravens. DJ Moore might be on his way to the Titans. And Jaquan Brisker is probably signing somewhere else. 3 stories, 3 tough decisions, 3 moments that could shape the future of this franchise. And I'm asking you, do you trust Ryan Poles to navigate this offseason? Because let's be real, this is the most important offseason in recent Bears history. The moves made in the next few months will decide whether we're contenders or just pretenders. Do you believe Ben Johnson can find the right replacement for Doyle? I think he can. He's been through this before. In Detroit, he lost assistants left and right and always found someone better. But the question is, can he do it in Chicago with limited resources? Do you think we should trade DJ Moore or keep him? Let me know in the comments. Honestly, I'm torn. On one hand, we need the cap space. On the other, Moore's a proven weapon, and we don't know if Odunze is ready to carry the WR1 load. Are you on board with letting Brisker walk to draft Thieneman? Because that's a big gamble. We're betting that a rookie can replace a proven playmaker. And if that gamble doesn't pay off, we could be in trouble. And here's what I really want to know. What would you do if you were Ryan Poles? If you had to make these calls, what would your move be? Would you keep Moore and find cap space somewhere else? Would you offer Brisker a competitive deal? Would you go after an experienced offensive coordinator or take a shot on another young up-and-comer? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear from you. I want to know if you're riding with me or if you think I've lost my damn mind. And if you're not subscribed to this channel yet, what are you waiting for? This is family. This is a community of Bears fans who live and breathe navy and orange. We need to stick together, especially during times like this, when the future feels so uncertain. Because let me tell you, this offseason is gonna be wild. There's gonna be more moves, more news, more tough calls. And I'll be right here every day, bringing you the latest updates, the realest analysis, and the most honest takes you'll find anywhere. Hit that like button if you want Ryan Poles to be aggressive in free agency. Subscribe if you believe Caleb Williams is going to take that next step next year. And share this video with every Bears fan you know, because we all need to stay informed. Because here's the truth. The next few months are going to define this franchise for the next 5 years. If Ryan Poles makes the right moves, we could be witnessing the start of a dynasty. If he misses, we're staring down another 5 years of mediocrity. And I don't know about you, but I'm sick of mediocrity. I'm sick of watching the Packers win the division year after year. I'm sick of the Vikings and Lions being better than us. It's time for Chicago to be Chicago again. It's time for the monsters of the Midway to roar again. I'm Miguel Bear Truth Morales, and this is what's happening in Chicago. Bear down, family. I'll see you in the next video. And remember, no matter what happens this off-season, we're in this together. Because that's what family does. That's what Bear Nation is all about.